Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Unstoppable Success. I'm your host, Jaclyn Strominger. And on this podcast, we hear from amazing leaders and their great insights and how they have had unstoppable success. That's kind of funny. Little Freudian slip there. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, um, but today, I'd love to actually share with you Neill Marshall. Let me tell you a little bit about Neill. He is the board chairman of Health Search Partners. He is an executive search veteran with more than 30 years of experience. He has been involved in more than 600 senior level assignments. In 2017, he was part of the co-founding firm of Health Search Partners and currently serves as the board chair. He previously held leadership roles with several major executive search firms, including Witt and Kiefer in Dallas. He's also a serial entrepreneur. He started two executive search firms, Marshall Cole and Associates and Sutherland Partners, that specialize in recruiting leaders for healthcare organizations. He has also served as the director of marketing for Merritt Hawkins and Associates. Neill has a wealth of knowledge to share with us. So, welcome, Neill. I could go on. Your bio is great, and you've done some amazing things.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
so welcome to Unstoppable Success.
Yes, and we will be talking about unstoppable success.
Yes. So tell me, you didn't start as a chairman. So how did you actually get started in search?
You know what? You're going to appreciate this story. Um, I um, I opened up a newspaper in 1989, and there was a two-line ad for a physician search firm in California. And Jaclyn, I had never thought about search. I didn't even know what search was. I don't know, 27 years old. I didn't know what search was. I don't know why it spoke to me, right? Two lines in a newspaper, and it spoke to me, and it changed my life. I joined Merritt Hawkins and Associates. They're the largest physician search firm in the country. Did that for 4 years, and then decided I wanted to do executive. But because my background was healthcare, I wanted to do healthcare executive search. Built some relationships in that industry. Joined the largest executive search firm in healthcare. Did that for 12 years. Had an opportunity to go out on my own. Did that for a time, and then had an opportunity to join with my former boss at the executive search firm to start our own firm. And then, with the I call it the Walmartization of everything, including healthcare, right? Everything's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we needed to be bigger in order to be relevant. So we joined with two other search firms combined to form Health Search Partners. Um,
So I'm curious, what was the calling for you to go and change to executive? Like where did that come from?
Well, you know what? So one of the things that you're going to ask me, and this may be a little crass, but you're going to, at some point, you might say, do you have advice for young people? And one of
Mhm.
my advices would be more zeros are better. Okay. Um,
Right.
in in physician search, you're paid about 25 to $30,000 per search, even not at the
Right.
clinical level, right?
Yeah.
Not at the dean level or whatever, but at the clinical level. Um, Executive search can be because it's based on their compensation. It's a lot more zeros, and so it just made more sense financially. The other part is the physician search tended to be a little more transactional.
Uh,
Executive search tended to be more relational because your clients can be your candidates become your clients. There are people, I talked to my first placement in 1994 the other day. She, I placed her at a hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I met her, saw her at a convention the other day. So relational.
right. So I love that because I talk a lot about relationship capital, and that's relationship capital at its best.
It's what it's what really business is based on. I remember my dad talking to me about it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I said, Dad, that's not right. It's all about what I can do and how hard I'm going to work and what I'm going to do. And what I didn't understand is he was so right. It's about the relationships that you build.
It is. It is about the relationships that you build and who, it's not just who you know, it's who, it's staying connected with them.
It's not just knowing somebody. They have to trust you, they
Mhm.
have to like you, and they have to want you to be a part of what they're doing or vice versa.
Right. Believe in you, right? And that whole,
But that would believe in you would be the
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting. So you've had this, and you've been in recruiting. And so kind of curious because, and you just said this, you said it was transactional. At some point, you know, have you worked with your team to make it more all relationship based or versus the transactional, no matter what level people are working in?
Yeah, and the business itself teaches you that because again, somebody who was a candidate a client, I'll give you a great example. I had a guy call me. He had been a candidate for me, wanted me to do some work for him. I thought he was about a B-minus candidate, but I went in and I worked with him on a couple of projects. I met the people that he worked with. I met his bosses. I met his peers. I met the people that worked for him. And I walked away thinking, you know what? This guy is an A candidate. And I need to make sure that he's on my short list the next time something comes down the pike that he might be a fit for.
I love that. I really love that. So, you just said, before you said, one of the biggest tips is dollars, right? Like that's what made you switch.
Zeros.
Zeros, the dollars. Well, yeah, zeros, the number of zeros at the end of it, right? But but what do you say to candidates, you know, or what people say now, it's like, the zeros aren't everything.
I absolutely agree. I was just saying if I'm going to do the exact same amount of work, if I can do it for 75 versus 25, it makes a lot more sense
Right.
for me. But yes, no, as a matter of fact, but one thing that I tell candidates all the time is, look, you're not going to take the wrong opportunity because of money. You're not. You're not gonna. What you might do, I say this to clients also, what they might do is not take an opportunity because it doesn't fit where they need to be compensation wise.
Right. Right. And how do you help them steer them in the right direction?
Which part of what?
So, like, how do you help a client actually, let's say maybe they're made an offer and it's more than what they are making now, right? But they think it's, how do you help them decide if it's the right fit for them?
Well, you move through a process, right? And it starts with the first conversation about what are you looking for? What do you want to do next? Tell me, what's the next perfect opportunity? And if the one that I'm talking about doesn't fit that, then I start chipping away right then and there. Well, you say you want to pursue this opportunity, but here's where it doesn't fit. Tell me, let's talk about that. And then sometimes they'll, you know what, you're right, or they're like, well, no, but because of this and this, it might be the right opportunity. But you start chipping away at that stuff early on, right? You start you start looking at what their picture is. For example, one of the first things that I ask everyone, candidate wise, is, give me an idea of where you need to be compensation wise. It's not my job to tell them what they need to do and where they need to be. Tell me where you are looking, and then if I've got something that might not fit that, I'll tell them and then give them why it doesn't quite fit, and then we can figure out whether compensation is going to be an issue or it's not.
Yeah. And I love what you said though, because at the end of the day, people have to know where they need to know, they have to be really clear on their values and where they want to be going.
Absolutely.
And if we don't have that, it's hard to make that next step, right? So talk about, talk about what you're doing now with Health Search Partners. I mean, you seem to be really changing the way search is done in the healthcare.
Yeah, we're certainly trying. Um, in search, the end result is to help a client find and attract the right person for a certain job, right? And then we were done. Now we would follow up with people, our placement and our client. How's it going? What do and we would, and all that. But the reality was about 98% of our work was done when the person was signed and delivered, right? Um, but again, due to kind of the Walmartization of healthcare and bigger and bigger and bigger, it would do, in order to compete, us as a boutique, which is a small search firm, specialized, we have to be able to offer something different and something better. And so, we really tried to figure out what can we do that's better. Is it finding the better people? I'm not sure. Um, or is it finding the right person and then making sure that both sides are structured in order for there to be maximum success? And the kind of the way that we got onto this, it was actually a conversation I was having with a guy named Richard Parks, CEO of Methodist Hospitals out in Lubbock, Texas, 22 hospitals, 10 billion. It's size of renown, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I said to him, I said, well, tell me you took this job. Tell me about, your first, when you first got there. And he said, well, Neill, whenever I started a new CEO job, my wife stays home. She sells the house, gets the kids ready to move. She moves. I move into the hospital. And I said, Richard, everybody works hard their first, 90 days. And he said, no. He said, I move into the hospital. As you well know, most major hospitals have like a residence dorm where the residents sleep and all that. He moved in and he would move in until his family showed up. And he told me a story about his first night at Methodist. Slept, woke up the next morning. The residents are making coffee. And like all old people do, he said, how did you sleep? And one of them popped off and said, didn't know that it was a CEO that he was talking to, right? Had never met him. It was his first day. He said, uh, slept horribly. The mattresses are horrible. And Richard said, you know what? I know somebody that can fix that. And he got the VP of facilities on the phone and he said, hey, we need 30 new mattresses in the residence dorm today. Get 5 pickup trucks. I'm going to Costco with you. We're going to Costco and I'm buying new mattresses for everybody. And that night they all slept on brand new mattresses. And he said, what that built and the rumble that went through the organization. He said, Neill, I left, I don't know, 10 years later. He said, people still talked about that to that day, right?
Oh,
So the law, a long-winded way to say, we started doing a lot of research and we started looking really hard at it. And we said, one thing that we haven't focused on that we feel like we should is what can we do with working with a person who's starting a new job and working with their hiring authority, whether that's a board or whether that's one person. And how do we figure out how to put a 90-day plan together and counsel them on what to do and how to do it so that they're successful in those first 90 days? Because if they're successful in the first 90 days, you have a better opportunity to be successful in the first year, which means you have a better opportunity to be have a successful tenure, whether that's 3 years or 5 years or 10 years.
yeah. So, all right, just because I know some things about some hospitals. So what that CEO did and what he did was he spent time with the residents and the actual physicians who are doing the
Any,
work,
yeah, no,
right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I've got story after story that we've written about uh, CEOs who eat in the physician lounge every single day. They're there every single day, and that's where their executive team is required to eat, right? We've got CEOs who have go into the OR suites with their physicians. They don't practice; they just watch, but they're there in case there's an issue, and they can figure out, hey, you know what? We've got a systemic problem that needs to be fixed.
Right.
They're visible. They're building trust. Not only one of the, and you understand this, one of the interesting things about a hospital is you not only have your employees who are stakeholders and the community, which is a stakeholder, but the largest really is your physicians, who some may be employed, some may not be employed. Even if they're employed, they don't really think they're employed. Um, and that's a huge stakeholder group.
Right.
And you have to be visible with them. And you have to build trust with them. And especially, we just feel like in the first 90 days, building that trust and getting what we call earned authority.
Right. So I love what you said because I feel like this is something, so many different companies, whether you're a healthcare company or you're a manufacturing company, you have different stakeholders or customers, right? So customer number one in the hospital is your physicians, right? You need to take care
Absolutely.
of them. When physicians are happy, they don't want to leave. They're able to give quality of care. If there are residents, right? So I kind of put the residents in that same bucket. Then
Right.
you have
Absolutely.
then you have nurses, right? The nursing staff, different from physicians, right?
Right.
Then you have your administrative staff, like the people that are your front desk. They have no medical training whatsoever, right? So they have, that's like a bucket number, three. And then there's actually the patients, right? That's another customer, right? And I would even put in there, you know, besides patients, you have one sort of
Mhm.
subset, and that's the family,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
a hospital and many businesses have multiple customers. They may not realize it. So I'm going to ask this question because it's more of a curiosity. What happens and when one of those is ignored or not met with the same level of interaction?
I mean, there will be problems, right? There will be issues, and as a healthcare executive, they and hospitals specifically, they need to understand all of those stakeholder groups because they're all incredibly important. Okay, um, we've done a lot of research. The reality is the most important. Okay, if you're going to kind of pull back the curtain, um, your physicians have to be happy. Okay. If they're not, the CEO is gone. You
Right,
have to figure out a way to for your physicians to be happy, or the CEO is not going to have a good tenure. You
right.
can fix a lot of those other things, but man, your physicians have to be happy.
And it's so true, and I guess in today's day, there's and I'm gonna give it the car dealer mentality, right? Because a lot of times right now, a lot of hospitals are going into a pay by review. So it's like I go to buy a car today, and the car dealer says to me, Jaclyn, we're going to get the survey. And please give me a 5-star review because I get my commission is based on 5 stars, which is completely bogus, right? In the sense of like what the whole purpose of it is in general. But we're seeing some cases, hospitals are going to the same thing where a physician's bonus is tied to whether or not he or she got a 5-star review. But they don't there's a lot of data in there that ends up not getting looked at. So how do you talk to physicians, and CEOs about change, or like how does that come up for you in conversations, and maybe like
Yeah,
get rid of
but
that?
that one's a tough one. My hope would be that the focus is on quality and safety, right? And third would be patient experience, which is what you're talking about,
Right.
the scorecards, if you will. But
Yeah.
most physicians are so driven by quality and safety, right? I want to do the best work I can, and I want my patient to be absolutely safe and have no hospital acquired issues so I think and that's where the paying authorities are more focused on, right? Both CMS and also your health plans. They're more focused on
Right.
quality and safety.
Right. So, you know, when you're looking at, I guess, like searches now, and you're putting people in different places, how difficult is it for you when maybe the candidate is absolutely fantastic, but you know, they're walking into a storm, and like how do that the 90-day strategy, is that something that sort of you also end up doing to help them turn things around, for lack of a better word, in a shit show?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If they're walking into a storm, number one, more than anything, well, two things. First, in healthcare today, there are so many storms.
Mm,
Okay. Listen, if it's not a really challenging environment, it's probably that there's probably something wrong, right? That all of healthcare is challenged. So all of them are challenging, but you want them to understand what the challenges are. And there will be people that have innate experience and qualities that might fit a certain challenge that might not fit another challenge, right? And so that's part of why we why you would use a search firm to go out, and instead of putting an ad out and having 20 people respond, and then you look at those 20 and decide, can I find the right person out of those 20, versus what I'll do, which I'll go out and I call it touch, but I will communicate with thousands of potential candidates, and I'll end up talking to 100 that then I can really subspecialize to the 8 or 10 that really are going to fit this specific opportunity because of who they are and their experience, and just again, who they are.
right. So what you just said, I think, is actually really important, and I think the listeners really need to know this. And I want to bring it to, whether you're in business looking for the client yourself, or you're looking for an opportunity, you know, do the research in the and be, making sure that you're aligning with the right place, making sure you're aligning with the right customer and client that you want to have, or the right business you want to associate with. And I think that it's what you said. It's not putting out the ad and seeing what's gonna come in. You're actually taking the time to get to know both parties, and you're the matchmaker, right? But wouldn't you say that, like, that's what most businesses, how people need to be successful in their own sales of their own businesses, right? Like, in what they're doing, we have to make sure they're a match. We have to remember we're not for everybody.
Correct. And the more homework you do up front, understanding what the challenges are. Let me give you an example. So one of the things that we talk about are getting early wins, right? Get
Mhm.
when you're coming in, right? Find early wins, not necessarily for you, right, but for the organization or a stakeholder group, right?
Yep.
The physicians. Are complaining that the food in the physician's lounge is horrible, right? So if I'm a CEO and I know that, right, I'm going to while I'm negotiating with the board on whether I'm coming or not, I'm going to say, look, I want an early win. And the win is that I want to get a 5-star chef for the physician lounge. Oh, but that's going to cost X. I understand that, but I think it's going to be worth it. And unless you can do that, I'm not your person. But you negotiate that win up front.
Oh, it's great. I love that.
Or, the other side is you negotiate getting rid of issues before you start. So an example is, I'm not going to use a physician example. I'll use an executive example. Let's say a CEO got fired. She had two hinge people, two people that are on the executive team that are her people, and everybody in the organization knows those two people need to go, right? But we're going to wait till the new CEO gets here and have them do it. And I say, no. If I'm the new one coming in, I say, everybody knows those people are not right for the organization. You get rid of them. Don't
Yeah.
don't make me do it. Get rid
No,
of them before I
don't do the
show
dirty
up.
work, right? Yeah.
Or we know that we're going to have to do a 5% riff. We'll do that before I come. Don't make me do it. So there are a lot of different things you can negotiate up front, whether you're the CEO or anybody else, right? You can negotiate wins for yourself. You can negotiate issues being taken off the table.
Yeah. But I love what you said though, but you got to do the homework, right?
Right.
So,
And know it.
right. And so I'm curious, so how do you help your prospects do that homework? I mean, that's like when I just heard you just said, it's like they need to be able to go in and potentially interview some of the other people that are at the office where they're going, to have separate meetings. I mean, somebody, that's going to warrant obviously an investment of time.
Yeah. So we'll do, whenever we start an assignment, we'll go in and, we'll spend a day and we'll talk to all the direct reports and the board and, and we'll put together a pretty detailed dossier. Okay. We'll ask questions like, what do you want this person to achieve in the first 2 years? What are the roadblocks? What are the issues? What are the things that this person needs? So that's one thing. Then as they're moving through the process, I mean, we've got a 3-page letter that we'll send to candidates that say that these are the things that you need to be doing as you're evaluating the opportunity, right? And the other pieces of that are, going in and this, but healthcare's while it's a big industry, it's a small world, right?
Mhm.
Go talk to people that aren't on the interview list, whether they're still with the organization or not. If you have relationships, you go find people that have worked there before. Go find people who know people. Get the story behind the story. We can't get everything. Um,
Right.
but you go and get the untold story, if you will. And
Right.
then
You have to get the nitty gritty.
and then the other part is then, when you're showing up, you don't just then on day one drive up and walk in and say, hey, I'm here. There are things that you need to be doing in that month or 6 weeks or 2 months between the time that you accept the position and the time that you take a position. Um, um, Intentionally figuring out what kind of tone you're going to set. Are there some symbolic acts that you can make in the first week or two? Well, we had one. You'll appreciate this. CEO drove up, and executive parking was right next to the hospital. He said, okay. And he walks into the executive team first meeting and he said, folks, our executive parking is right next to the hospital, but all our employees park 3 parking lots away. I said, yeah. He said, one of the things that we believe in as an organization is that our employees are our most important asset. Yes, that's exactly right. We're going to show them how important we think they are. And so we no longer, as an executive team, park right next to the hospital. We park in the very back, and the doctor of the month, the employees of the month in each of the departments now park right next to the hospital. And what we're going to do every day is we're going to park and we're going to walk through the parking lot. We're going to say hello to our employees. and we're going to greet them. And they're going to know that they're important by watching what our actions are, which are we've got to walk farther than they do.
I absolutely love that. I mean, it's some of those things, some of those small little things that people will do that make some of the biggest impact,
Well,
right?
we cut, it's symbolic act, and
Right.
the reality is that
Look at that. They're
remember
getting
the
more
old
steps in. They're healthier.
remember the old Charlie Brown cartoons where the parents would talk and all you heard was wah wah
Yep.
wah wah wah.
Yep. Yep.
That's kind of how your employees sometimes are going to view you. You're just another suit that gets up and is going to talk, and all they hear is wah wah wah. But what do they see? What do they feel? What is something that you can do that can demonstrate that they're important? I'll give you another example. My first job out of college, I was a executive trainee, and there were like five of us, pretty hard charging, knocking things down to
Yeah.
to 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 succeed, right? And they fired our CEO, and we brought in a new CEO. And his first day, we were all at the window looking at him. We're looking out the window, watching him, and he drives up to the parking lot. And he gets out and he walks through the parking lot and he picks up garbage. And he goes and he throws it away, goes into the warehouse, introduces himself, comes into us, introduces himself, never says a word about the garbage, right? But we all got the message. We're no longer a C organization, and this guy is not going to have a C organization. And so from then on, every single one of us showed up early, and we walked the parking lots. And Grover Martin never picked up another piece of garbage again for as long as I was there, and I was there in a year and a half.
That's awesome. But it's true. It's those little actions, and I think listeners, I think this is something that I really want to make sure that to create unstoppable success, you have to it's almost like be the quiet leader. Lead how you want your team to feel and do the things that you want them to do. It's saying thank you, right? Opening up the door, right? It's smiling when you pick up the phone. When they see you doing things, they're like, you know, it's not, you're not demanding they do it. They're just seeing you in action. And people want to do that. People would want to emulate that. As long as you are doing things also to create trust and not be like demanding kind of like barking person, right?
Right.
But you're learning about people. So you want to grow your team and you want to grow that culture for so that your team can have that unstoppable success. Lead by example. If you don't want
Yeah,
garbage,
and there can be no dissonance between what you
right?
say and what
And
you do, right?
very true.
If there's dissonance there, you'll lose all credibility.
And that's so true, right? You can't do one thing and say another.
It's a killer. It's a killer.
So where do you see health search partners going like next? What's the next step? Like where do you see the growth?
Well, we're going to continue to focus on this first 90 days, the earned authority concept of helping our both our clients and the people that take the positions to be successful. Because when somebody's successful, it breeds success in a whole bunch of different areas,
Mm.
right? And so continuing to do that and continuing to grow that and um, just continuing to do that. We'll probably take this and end up putting it all together in kind of a book form, right? I mean, we're writing the book an article at a time.
Yeah, right. Well, I have a couple of ideas, but anyway, which I'll share with you in a second. But Neil, I love what you're doing in healthcare. I think it's at the end of the day, you're helping people get clearer where they want to be and know about their vision and mission when they take that next step. and then making sure that when they walk into that next place or the place that they're going to, they're going to be successful and they're going to have that first 90 days is so important. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, and that's really great. So, how can people find more about you and what you're doing and get connected?
Sure. Um, um, on the web, healthsearchpartners.com, right? Just the way it sounds.
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn, Neill Marshall, and there's only I only think there's four of us in the United States spelled like I spell it, so or
Okay.
like my grandfather spelled it.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, that and we guest on podcasts and speak, and we're at most industry functions.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I will put that all in the show notes. But listeners, do me the favor because this is a really important message. Before you take and go into something to have that success, you need to be able to treat people the right way. And there's a lot of great strategies. And this is, you know, really important, not just in healthcare, but in every business. So think about how you are treating and the culture that you are embodying and how you are reacting to people. And I know that listeners, this is a message that you can share with your friends, your colleagues, and other business professionals who need to hear this message. So thank you so much, Neill, for being an amazing guest. And listeners, thank you for sharing and listening. And please take a moment to join our brand new school community. We're just getting it started, so be one of the first 100 people, and you'll get in for free. But that's where you have more tips and insights on having unstoppable success. I'm your host, Jaclyn Strominger, and thank you all again. I'm Jaclyn Strominger, and I want to invite you to join the Unstoppable Success community on School. You can go to Unstoppable Success at school-9143 and join us. In this community, you will get daily tips so that you can be unstoppable, and you'll also connect with other leaders and professionals who are also aiming for their unstoppable success and are there to help you succeed. So join us in the community. We can't wait to see you on School.